Well, good morning. It's coming up on about 10 a.m. A few hours after feed time. A couple hours before it's time for me to take a drive to the city. Got some appointments. But so the rabbit garden here, as you can see, the monsoons have been kind to it. We'll talk more about that shortly. So I'm here in the rabbit barn, and I thought I might as well introduce or reintroduce the continuing breeding rabbits by name and who their family line is. And so this one here is Holly. Holly is out of Foxgloves by Juniper. So that makes her 1/4 Champagne d'Argent. Violet Hunter is her grandma. Holly is coming up on 1 year old. I think she was born in November. And she came over with us on the big move. And I have tried to breed her, but it didn't take. And now we're waiting for Juniper to recuperate from a biting injury so that he can try to breed her again. And this one here is Eglantine. She's one of Violet's daughters by Juniper. And she is the mom for that last batch of grow-outs except for one. She also came over from the old place. And I think she's like 1.5 years old now. Can't remember when she was born. But she has the most luxurious coat. She's a little skittish. I did just reach at her. She doesn't like that too much. But likewise, we're waiting for Juniper to recuperate, and then I'm going to try breeding these two together. It's a line breeding. And then I know we're going to save a buck out of the new does, new bloodline. Eglantine. Eglantine is an old name, and it means briar rose. Love you, Eglantine. Her nickname was Little Bit Little when she was a kit. That coat. And across the way from Eglantine is her sister Foxgloves. And she's a big, rangy rabbit. She's had a successful larger litter, and then she had a singleton. And then she and Eglantine both abandoned their litters the most recent breeding because the cats lived in here. And so I've changed that, and the cats have been kicked out of here. So as soon as Juniper's ready, we'll breed her up and hopefully have some more of those beautiful line bred hybrids of American and Champagne d'Argent. But yeah, Foxy here is, I would say, at least 10 pounds, maybe 11. She's a big girl. Has that beautiful champagne coat. But they stay dark. The champagnes turn much more silver. Love you, Foxy. Back in May, when we picked up Amarok and Aristocrat the ram, we also made a stop and picked up 2 purebred American does. And this one we've named Lily, Lily White. And I bred her to Larkspur. So that'll be American with a trace of Champagne d'Argent, her offspring. And she did start to do some haystacking This is her first litter. And we have high expectations for her in Larkspur's Cross. And here's the other new doe, Blue Lilac. And Juniper managed to get 2 fall-offs with her. And then, unfortunately, he mounted her the wrong way and she bit him. So, as a rabbit breeder, that's been warned about. So, you know, you kick yourself for allowing it to occur. Anyways, she's definitely pregnant. Hallelujah, blessings. And she started haystacking pretty early. So she's due next Wednesday-ish. That's Blue Lilac from Missouri. Down below are the boys, and there's Juniper. He's been having a bit of a dusty eye situation, so I've been rinsing his eyes, which leaves kind of a streakiness. So there's no like infection, but anyways, he's the one, the daddy of them all in here. He's the most awesome personality, just like his daddy, Jack, purebred American. And so he's by Jack Frost out of Snow Day, purebred Americans. And so he is the patriarch of our rabbitry. And so I'm hoping that his business is in good shape. It'll be a month next week of healing, and he's in good spirits. The skin, the tissue looks healthy. So I'm hoping that he'll be functional, and we'll start breeding up the ones I mentioned. This here feisty little guy is Larkspur, and he is Holly's litter mate. So I think they were born in November, like I said, and he came over from the old place, just like his dad Juniper that I showed you too. He's Foxglove's baby. And so I've already, since Juniper got injured, I did breed Lily to him because I wanted to get her bred, not delay. And she was very willing. They made a great pair. Got 4 fall-offs. And so I feel like Lily is probably full of Larkspur's babies. Amen, Larkspur. And he loves to come out for hops. He's quite the binky-making digger. Binkies are when they jump up in the air sideways and kick their feet. And then he just loves to dig little holes all over the rabbit garden. Has a great time. Very energetic. Okay, so the bunnies have, well, I've taken the tiles to soak them for cooling, and they have their fan going. So onward. So here is our stack of water for this barn and garden area, and Matt has rigged it up so that he can just attach the hose and doesn't have to climb up there or fiddle around getting in there between them, and he can fill up either tote. With this. And so we go into town and we get these 3 totes filled. It's $5 for all 3. It's awesome. And that's how we water out here. And here's the laying hens in the chicken palace. And all of these came from San Bernardino with us. And since coming here, we have had some casualties. Honestly, I kind of wonder if part of it's the high altitude, but we've also had some sickness issues, and so these girls have been quarantined inside, and we're going to be doing the deep mulch with compost, kitchen waste, and chicken deep mulch straw in here. But Ivan still takes them out and they have scratched and pecked and eaten up all the greenery that grew up around the lamb's water. So we've got this improvement. We bought these 3 panels, these kennel panels, and those are the new doors, gates into the barnyards. And so we've started off just with this one that we put the lamb and ram fam with the lamb and ram fam cam up there. And then we've extended it. Matt and Ivan built out because ultimately it will have rafters and a roof like that one on both sides and water collectors, one step at a time. So this is where the brooder lives now. So Matt and Ivan built this brooder with a sun area and a roof protected area. Both roofs lift up. And so they have their plate brooder, which is low enough energy that it can be run on solar easily, unlike heat lamps. Plus, there's less risk of a fire. And so, you know, with farms, there's ups and downs, as we've been talking about, and we did have a major mishap, and now this flock is down to just 4 olive eggers, and we value them greatly. But it did instigate building up more and ordering even more turkeys. So behind door number 3 is the pen for the grow out meat turkeys. And these 3 are just such a joy. We love them so much. They're hilarious. As you probably saw if you watched the Lurking with Turkeys, they're pretty ridiculous. Super friendly. And we were sad to lose the babies, but because you cannot get small quantities of turkeys anywhere, we had to order 20. And so we're going into kind of a turkey business mode. Especially Ivan and my mom have worked out a business deal with that. So gonna build up the turkey habitat still more as the days go by. So
300 foot circumference.
So we're walking around the outside of the rabbit garden, which has been completely taken over by wildflowers. I didn't even have to plant a flower garden. And we've got a bunch of the different kinds of grasses. Like right there is the side oat blue grama grass. That's a valuable forage. There's something different there. There's the same of that one with the kind of cattail, maybe a Timothy variety. I have no idea. We're gonna
We're trying to learn about the grasses.
Yeah, take grass samples and try to match them. I've been doing that with the wildflowers too. Like this is a tansy aster, or as we like to call it, a candy ass tansy aster. And I'm also doing kind of an experiment with the squash, if they grow better on the ground or if they grow better climbing. That is a yard long bean. Needs to be tied to the fence. And then random squashes and radishes and beans. And we've moved this chick chalet into the rabbit garden so that they can come out here and have some extra shade. For now, you know, it's a very movable device. So that's how it looks out here. Tons of wildflowers. And continuing to walk, there's the basin gardens. This orange globe mallow, wildflower volunteer. Those are also edible and medicinal, but check out these tomatoes. And then Matt has planted 3 sisters. Those he planted first, getting massive. And then these he planted, 2 weeks later, I want to say?
Yeah.
Getting strong. And these beefsteak tomatoes are the survivors of great hardship. But now they're flourishing. There's some fruit setting on the beefsteak tomatoes. Yeehaw! We've been harvesting all along little handfuls. Now it's turning into small baskets of these cherry tomatoes as well. What do you think about the tomatillos behind you?
They're going crazy. They're going crazy. They love it here.
Those things are fierce. We did have some small type of mite-looking insect that was going inside and eating the fruit inside the husk, but it's making so many that I feel like we're sacrificing that, no big deal. And then they're actually growing up over pepper plants. Like, there's different pepper plants in there, see? Right there. And then these poblanos and a native seed pepper plant. I think Zia Pueblo is what that variety is.
I think that one is.
And they're getting completely overgrown by the tomatillos, which also came from native seed source. And this is another native seed source, tomato, Prescott Wittenberg?
Yeah, Wittenberg.
Something. And it is loaded with fruits. Oh, they're starting to turn color. And that, in turn, is overgrowing. There's a bell pepper under there setting fruits. Can't even see it. It's so overgrown. And then these are from Native Seed Search also. Some different variation of the Anaheim. And those are getting big and ripe. We have taken some early ones just because we wanted them with our potato breakfast. I think this one is a Serrano. But as you can see, this tomatillo patch is coming outside its boundary into the next basin. And out there is the Australorp pen. So let's head over there.
Like 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. That was like 3.5 weeks ago.
And then earlier patches, there's one that looks like a lawn over there.
Yep.
And we've got the rams over there. We'll take you there next. But where the chickens have been, it turns into a very greened up lawn type of area with lots of thatch armor where there's bare dirt. Here's some more chicken impact. And the chickens themselves. All 60 black Australorps doing great. And the pullets have started to lay. So we're getting about 4 a day at this point. And so because this tree is large and the birds are getting bigger and more mature, the guys hooked together 2 of these nettings. And then every day, the roosting box gets rolled to the next spot. And it gets a dose of chicken manure over the course of the night. And during the day, they have this tree. These juniper trees are the heart of this biome, the juniper pinon woodland without so many pinons in it.
Yeah.
But everything clusters at the skirts of these relatively short-statured but majestic juniper trees.
Stage.
So you were saying, Matt?
Yeah, so the Australorps have done really well. It's a straight run, so about half of these are roosters. Unfortunately, the Australorps at this age, you can't really tell the difference. So they're pretty much at harvest age now. These were combination meat and egg layer birds. So we plan on harvesting most of the roosters and then keeping a batch of the hens to grow the next batch of Australorps next spring. So hopefully soon we'll be able to tell the roosters apart.
And so we just carry on along our nucleus fence line. So our property does extend out that way.
Yeah, all the way to the other side of the wash there.
Yep. But this is what we've sectioned off to a manageable, secure perimeter. And I call this southern gate the glamping gate because we're going to develop some camping out on that peninsula of land. And so this morning, Matt hooked up the rams along this whole section of fence line to the corner, from the glamping gate post to the corner.
It's about 300 feet.
How wide did you set it up for the sections to go?
About 20.
So yeah, 20 by 330 feet long.
Yeah, so this is one of the areas that the chickens were on probably about 3 weeks to a month ago. So they did the same thing, drove their cart around, moving it every day, throwing hay down, or straw, and some hay. And
They do like to eat alfalfa.
Yeah, and so this is what's grown back. You can see the impact where the grasses are much shorter, the bushes are stripped a little bit, but you can see the grasses are starting to grow back. And now they have fertilizer and some cover on the soil, so hopefully they will grow back even better.
That's the goal with regenerative grazing.
So what we did here was ran the single poly line. We ran it along the fence line here, and then what we're doing is popping it out to allow the rams an area to graze. And so every day we'll just move a couple of the posts out about to the 20-foot line and keep marching them down this line. But we don't have to restring this for almost 2 weeks. We can just keep popping out a little 16-foot section.
And of course, Brisket joins us. Trusty Brisket's about 9 years old. We think he's a Dutch Shepherd. He was a rescue. Experts on the matter agree that Brisket is the best dog in the entire world. And I think planet Earth is probably the only planet with dogs on it, so I would say intergalactically the best dog. Anyways, back to the fencing. And a whiptail lizard.
That's a big one.
Very stripy.
Long tail on that one.
I don't know if I'm capturing it because I have glare. All right, there's the rams. Hi, aristocrat. He's all, do you guys have treats for me? He loves his food. Yeah.
So this is where the rams are right now. The back side of that tree is about how wide we're going to make their pasture down this fence line. We have that corner pulled in right now just to keep them mobbed up on this smaller area. And we wanted to include that small tree so they can at least get some shade. They can actually get shade from that, even though it doesn't look like it. They were both laying down behind it when we walked up.
They kind of plug in.
Yeah, so later this afternoon or tomorrow morning we'll pop that corner out, just move those posts to make this squared off at the end, and that'll give them that whole section of grass there. And then we'll just keep marching them down this section, and like I said, that'll take about 10 or 14 days to march them down this. And then they get fed some Bermuda grass on top of what's here, because as you can see, some of the areas are kind of barren. And so we throw the Bermuda grass out and they eat that and also trample some of it in, so it gets left behind as some organic matter in addition to their manure.
Also, I've noticed with this Bermuda hay that if it gets rained on, it does start to grow. Because it's that rhizomal grass that people hate about Bermuda, but suddenly I'm the biggest fan. Like, we pay a lot of money for Bermuda hay, and we're hoping it takes root.
And right up here is one of the areas the chickens were on probably 6 weeks ago, 8 maybe even, 6 to 8 weeks ago. And it has pretty much recovered from them, and almost looks like a lawn. I've seen lawns that look worse. So we'll go up there and take a look at that. So this is an area that the chickens were on probably close to 2 months ago. It doesn't look like much, but this is about what you get for growth out here. Especially, we have not had a lot of rain this year at this location. The surrounding areas have gotten a lot of rain. We've gotten maybe just a little over 2 inches. And we haven't irrigated this at all. This is just what the natural native grasses do. But the good thing is you can see a lot of it's actually gone to seed. And with the extra manure and the extra straw armoring the soil, hopefully we'll get some expansion of the grasses next season. And here in another area that the chickens were in previous to that one, this one was pretty barren to start with.
It looked like this over here.
Yeah, I mean that's what it looked like without the chickens on it. So it's
and
pretty
it didn't
sandy.
really even have grasses yet, or it had no wildflowers. It was prior to that taking hold.
Yeah, so you can see from the chicken scratch some of the milo, which is a kind of sorghum, has sprouted. So we're gonna try to let that grow, and hopefully it goes to seed and grows some more, because not only are the seeds good chicken feed, but the sorghum is good fodder for the sheep too, as long as it doesn't freeze or get too drought stressed. So, because then it can create prussic acid, I believe it's called. It's effectively cyanide gas, which, as you can imagine, is bad for the animals. So yeah, but when it's fresh, it's good, and the seed heads are good.
And other animals have already sampled it and agree that it is good. Turkeys have nibbled, and the sheep eat it, and everybody wants it. So here's the view of the rams from this side. They're going to town on the fresh greenery, manuring it up behind them. So when Matt talks about mobbing, that's about animal impact, where you group the animals more thickly, more higher stock density, and you move them at a rapid time, so each day. So we're learning.
Yeah, this is all an experiment for us. So
Right. Look on the playlist and watch Dr. Alan Williams. It's a great overlook here at the glamping gate. You can see the wash right down there.
yeah, and that's kind of the corner of our property on the far side of the wash.
Yeah.
Right there.
All right, as we get closer to the compound, we see where we initially put the chicken playground with the netting first go round.
And so right up here, you can see all the grass has come back and gone to seed around this side of the tree. We ran Aristocrat up this fence line and kind of split the trees with his poly rope. So the far side of the trees got grazed by sheep this year.
You can see a line.
Yeah. And around the other side of the trees was only the chickens, and that was several months ago. And we weren't dropping quite as much straw on the ground at the time, and we weren't moving them as often, so it doesn't have quite the positive impact. But
It still looks
recovering.
really good, yeah.
It's recovering,
And
so
there
that's
are
good.
seed heads definitely on the chicken side.
Yep, you can go show those close up.
Yep. But on the sheep side, that was just recently, like a couple, 3-4 days ago. A week
ago.
tops.
Yeah, a week ago.
Yeah, so that got grazed back down, and he got the nutrition of the early seed heads. Okay, so here's some of that grandma grass. And we're hoping that all of this will send its seeds. That looks like a different variety of grass.
One in the back, yeah.
Here's the grandma grass. Maybe the light is different. It's really hard for me to tell what I'm filming from the glare.
And part of what we're doing is leaving strips of ungrazed area between the areas we're grazing, so that there's still grasses that are allowed to fully go to seed. So this is where we just took the rams off. They grazed this left-hand side, and you can see if we leave them on long enough, they graze almost everything gone. There's a little bit of green that they leave behind. Normally we wouldn't want to graze it this far down, but we're starting off on a pretty parched desert area. And then if you look, you can see the line where the fence was. The right side is where the chickens were maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and nothing else has been on there, and it's recovered. There's even one little sorghum there.
Right, so even though we're saying, well, this is the chicken side, look how green and tall it is, that looked just as bad as those recent chicken areas I showed you earlier. Eaten down to the ground, scratched and pecked, but it comes back like that. And so will this ram paddock. So now we're going up the lane, which is lined by these longifloras. I think they're called Gilia longifloras. Don't know, never heard of them before, but they are so pretty. And we've also got these yellow zinnias, and of course the ubiquitous orange mallow. Love them.
And tumbleweed.
And a tumbleweed, of course. That one's for next permaculture. And as we come past the horse corral in my mom's place, hi Hassan. Here's where the chicks get to come out and exercise and forage. It's a box full of flowers. Tall grass is going to seed.
Yeah, they're not in there right now, but
They'll come out after lunch.
yeah.
So here's our latest acquisition. It's another storage container. That's going to be Ivan's apartment, my studio, the solar shed, the utility room, freezers, fridge, and then there's going to be an outdoor kitchen lounge on this side to watch the sunset. And we're coming to see the ewes paddock, and Amrock is standing guard. He's gotten huge. But would you look at these wildflowers and grasses? So many varieties. I do like to say it looks like there were a million weddings and all the brides threw their bouquets on the ground.
That section up there.
Yep, we have stealth cactus here. They're all low to the ground. Things like to bunker low. We get high winds out here. And so the lambs, I'm sorry, they're the ewes now. Anyways, they're grazing with 2 strands of poly rope. And Amrock is doing a fantastic job being a guardian dog. He stays put with them all day long, and he stays put with Aristocrat all night long.
So this area shows a little more what we're hoping to work towards in the next year and couple of years. The grasses here are a little bit better. They're a little more lush. There's also quite a variety, and there's still some bare spots in the dirt, and we'll work on that as we graze and bale feed to supplement them out here. But if our whole property was like this in 2 years, I'd be pretty happy with it.
And that's just adjacent to where the ewes have grazed. Brisket likes to go lizard hunting.
And yep, this is Amarok. He's 5 months old, if you can believe it. He is getting huge. He's almost as big as Brisket. And he's doing very well. He's starting to get a little more hyper as a puppy, more teenager. So he's started trying to play with the sheep a little bit, so he's getting some schooling on that, but seems to be doing pretty well. He listens very well to voice commands.
I was able to holler out the RV window across the way for him to leave it and to go lay down. He looked at the RV and then went under the tree and laid down.
Yep.
So we diffuse a lot of his excess energy by taking him on off-leash WALKs into the wash. I think he's starting to learn those words. But his breed of dog is nocturnal, so you see him yawning. He's very comfortable taking a nap all day in the shade. So this tree came to us clipped up like that.
Yeah.
So that's what happens with the junipers if you clip them up and make them look more like a regular tree. But the skirts of the junipers and the piles of tumbleweeds actually create a habitat protecting more tender plants down below. Even this dead tree is feeding the life. So he's a very silly boy, and he keeps getting different hairdos as the time passes. Now he has kind of a dorsal stripe of adult fur. And his widow's peak mullet is starting to recede. But he still has those flashing dark eyes and jolly disposition. Look at the size of those paws. Hi, Amarok. You're huge. Oh, no paws on me, though. And, of course, when we are in here, up steps number 104, Heathers. She's the most friendly. What a little doll. You can pet her, huh, Matt? Heathers?
Sometimes.
She usually lets me.
Yeah. Hi, yes, you too.
And behind her is...
No.
Which one is that? Dude, that's Trixie, 106.
She's getting big.
She's gotten huge.
She's actually gotten bigger than Escapade.
Yeah, next to her is the one that was the biggest, Escapade with the white tail tip. Escapade is still the most flighty one, cannot touch her. And then next to her is Goody Two Shoes. And I've got glare on my screen again. And last but not least is Nescafe, little horned. And it's just really fun to move these girls in and out, morning and night, from their pen to their paddock. And we're actually one day too long on this section.
Yeah.
You think, Matt?
Yeah, they should have been moved off.
Yeah.
Do that tomorrow.
We got to take things in stride out here. Anyways, up next is to see that experimental area. You can see the sprinkler in the distance.
So this is a section that we decided to try some experiments with irrigation. It was about 2 weeks ago that we set this up. We dropped 2 totes of water through the sprinkler. It goes through about a tote an hour with its current sprinkler head on it. The idea was to water anytime we didn't get 2/10 that week. And of course, as soon as I watered, the next 2 days we got a tenth of rain each, which is great because the ground was wet and those tenths got to soak in. And then we went almost a week until later last week, we got 2 decent rainy days. We got a little over half an inch one day, and then about a third of an inch the next day. So we haven't actually watered this again. We haven't irrigated this again since 2 weeks ago. But I am gonna water tonight. We have another 2 totes to drop on this. And I think we're gonna go ahead and just water it every week now going forward, regardless of how much rain we get. The nice thing about the rain this week was it was significant, and it was over the course of pretty much the full day. So very little of it ran or even puddled. Most of it sunk straight into the ground. So these perennial grasses have really deep roots. So I'm sure they really appreciated that. So this is now 7 weeks, I believe, after the ewes were taken off this section of grazed pasture, and then behind the sprinkler has not been grazed. Not a lot of growth in the last 2 weeks, but we're gonna continue to water it and see where it grows.
So the ewes got to use these trees for their shade for the entire time that we moved the paddock around the trees, and they really laid down a thick carpet of manure. That's some solid fertility, and that's some dried range cattle manure that seems indestructible. And Matt just placed a rock out at the dividing line where the sprinkler edge should be. So here we can see some grama grass seed heads coming up on the grazed portion. Grazed plus irrigated. Here's the dividing line, ungrazed.
So Jean-Marie ran out of storage. Here's the rock that I placed. It's about on the edge of where the sprinkler was reaching. And you can kind of see out here, this is just with whatever water has fallen. And then if we move over, this has been watered one extra time, basically just one extra little shower. But we are going to start just watering this regardless of the rainfall. We're going to water tonight and water Monday or Tuesday every night and just see if we can see any market difference. Right now, I don't think there's much. What do you think?
I think there is.
Think there's a little difference? I mean, it's only one more rainstorm basically that it's had in 2 weeks, so I wouldn't expect a great difference.
Yeah,
but we're going to get more regular on it.
We were observing that the ground here is pretty patchy because this is a patchy county.
And so here's the sprinkler, and it pretty much reaches the fence line, and it pretty much reaches to in between those two trees. If you just draw a line between the trees, that's pretty much where it goes. And it reaches out almost, I don't know if you can see the little anthill dead patch over there, and all around here. So pretty decent looking area as far as our property is concerned right now, so it'll be a good experiment. But not much to report at this point. We will water again tonight though. And there's brisket laying under the tree.
Where it was grazed, it's short, but it's very green.
Yep, it's recovering well. And here you can see an area that is kind of what we would like to be doing, where we bale fed the sheep, and they left a lot of it to compact down and thatch in and armor the soil. Unfortunately, with hay prices right now, can't really afford to overfeed them this much and leave this much behind. But we're trying to do it in little patches. As you can see around, there's a lot of bare dirt. That bare dirt cooks in the sun and not much can really take root there. So we're hoping that armoring it with some thatch will help things grow and help the soil biome become healthier. And even if we have to do this in little patches and let it thrive and ripple out, that's the plan. Try to create little oases for the microbiome and for the grasses and plants and microorganisms to do their thing here and restore this pasture. And we'll just close out the video with a lovely view from our property. All right. Cheers and blessings. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.